We are reading the 9th chapter of Think and Grow Rich, which is by Napoleon Hill, endorsed by Andrew Carnegie. And chapter 9 is persistence. Please feel free to ask any questions in the comments or on the live stream, and we'll get to them. Chapter 9, persistence, the sustained effort necessary to induce faith, the 8th step to riches. The sustained effort necessary to induce faith. So if you don't have faith, this is a good chapter. The 8th step to riches. Chapter 9, persistence. Persistence is an essential factor. It's an essential factor. It really is. Persistence is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. The basis of persistence is the power of will. Willpower and desire, when properly combined, make an irresistible pair. People who accumulate great fortunes are generally known as cold-blooded and sometimes ruthless. Often they are misunderstood. What they have is willpower, which they mix with persistence and use as the basis of their desires. Willpower and desire, when you properly combined... Listen, we're reading this because it's a good idea to read every single day. And if you're not reading, this book club makes it easy. So that's why I hope you have joined us, and that's why I'm going to jump right into that one more time. We're reading Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich today. If you have any questions about what I'm reading, feel free. Persistence is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. The basis of persistence is power of will. Willpower and desire, when properly combined, make an irresistible pair. People who accumulate great fortunes are generally known as cold-blooded and sometimes ruthless. Often they are misunderstood. What they have is willpower, which they mix with persistence and use as the basis of their desires to ensure the attainment of their objectives. Appreciate y'all. Henry Ford has been generally misunderstood to be ruthless and cold-blooded. Hey, Roki Doki. This misconception grew out of Ford's habit of following through all of his plans with persistence. The majority of people are ready to throw arms and purposes overboard and give up at the first sign of opposition or misfortune. A few carry on despite opposition until they attain their goal. These few are the Fords, Carnegies, Rockefellers, and Edisons. There may be no heroic connotation to the word persistence, but the quality is to character what carbon is to steel. The building of a fortune generally involves the application of the entire 13 factors of this philosophy. These principles must be understood. All who accumulate money must apply them with persistence. If you are reading this book with the intention of applying the knowledge it conveys, the first test of your persistence will come when you begin to follow the 6 steps described in the 2nd chapter. Unless you are one of the 2 out of every 100 who already have a definite goal at which you are aiming and a definite plan for its attainment, you may read the instructions and then carry on with your daily routine, never complying with those instructions. The author is checking you up at this point, all right? Because lack of persistence is one of the major causes of failure. Moreover, experience with thousands of people has proven that lack of persistence is a weakness common to the majority of people. It is a weakness that may be overcome by effort. The ease with which lack of persistence may be conquered will depend entirely upon the intensity of one's desire. The starting point of all achievement is desire. Keep this constantly in mind. Weak desires bring weak results, just as a small amount of fire makes a small amount of heat. If you find yourself lacking in persistence, this weakness may be remedied by building a stronger fire under your desires. Continue to read. Continue to read to the end, then go back to chapter 2 and start immediately to carry out the instructions given in the 6 steps. The eagerness with which you follow these instructions will indicate clearly how much or how little you really desire to accumulate money. If you find that you are indifferent, you may be sure that you have not yet acquired the money consciousness. If you find that you are indifferent, you may be sure that you have not yet acquired the money consciousness, which you must possess before you can be sure of accumulating a fortune. Fortunes gravitate to people whose minds have been prepared to attract them, just as surely as water gravitates to the ocean. In this book may be found all the stimuli necessary to attune any normal mind to the vibrations that will attract the object of one's desires. Wow, that's kind of silly. They just mentioned the word vibrations right here. I'm on chapter 9, page 128, and I remember, because this isn't the original edition, I remember hearing from people who have studied from the original edition, the word frequency and vibration is used tenfold, hundredfold more than it is in the current situations, which gives additional understanding of what the main reasons they're trying to teach here. We need to work in the vibration and the frequency, right? We'll see if it pops up in this chapter more. If you find you are weak in persistence, center your attention upon the instructions contained in chapter 10 on power. That's the next chapter. Nice. Surround yourself with a mastermind group and develop persistence through the cooperative efforts of the members of this group. You will find additional instructions for the development of persistence in chapter 4 and on autosuggestion in chapter 12 on the subconscious mind. Follow the instructions outlined in these chapters until your habit nature hands over to your subconscious mind a clear picture of the object of your desire. From that point on, hey, good to see you again, Andre. From that point on, you will not be handicapped by lack of persistence. Your subconscious mind works continuously, while you are awake and while you are asleep. Spasmodic or occasional effort to apply the rules will be of no value to you. To get results, you must apply all the rules until their application becomes a fixed habit with you. In no other way can you develop the necessary money consciousness. Hi, Love Kush. Nice to meet you. Poverty is attracted to the one whose mind is favorable to it, as money is attracted to one whose mind has been deliberately prepared to attract it. And through the same laws, poverty consciousness will voluntarily seize the mind that is not occupied with money consciousness. A poverty consciousness develops without conscious application of habits favorable to it. The money consciousness must be created to order unless one is born with such a consciousness. Catch the full significance of the statements in the preceding paragraph and you will understand the importance of persistence in the accumulation of a fortune. Without persistence, you will be defeated even before your start. With persistence, you will win. Well, since it just said, if you catch the full significance of the statements in the preceding paragraph, I'm going to reread that paragraph for us. When is it for lunch? Lunch is in about 35 minutes, I think. Poverty is attracted to one whose mind is favorable to it, as money is attracted to one whose mind has been deliberately prepared to attract it, and through the same laws. Poverty consciousness will voluntarily seize the mind that is not occupied with money consciousness. A poverty consciousness develops with, and even an abundant consciousness, I would say. A poverty consciousness develops without conscious application of habits favorable to it. The money consciousness must be created to order unless one is born with such a consciousness. Catch the full significance of the statements in this preceding paragraph, and you will understand the importance of persistence in the accumulation of a fortune. Without persistence, you will be defeated even before you start. With persistence, you will win. If you have ever experienced a nightmare, you will realize the value of persistence. You are lying in bed half awake with a feeling that you are about to suffocate. You are able to turn over or to move a muscle. You are unable to turn over or move a muscle. You realize that you must begin to regain control over your muscles. My name is Tommy T, and the book we're reading is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Through persistent effort of willpower, you will finally manage to move the fingers of one hand. By continuing to move your fingers, you extend your control to the muscles of one arm until you can lift it. Then you gain control of the other arm in the same manner. You finally gain control over the muscles of one leg and then extend it to the other leg. Then with one supreme effort of will, you regain complete control over your muscular system and snap out of your nightmare. The trick has been turned step by step. My question is this person feeling this in the dream? And then if they become lucid and wake their muscles up, then they wake up and they're out of their nightmare? I don't know. I've never experienced a nightmare like that. Just one that's like tense and difficult, but I'm usually moving. Maybe I'm never moving in my dreams. Come to think of it. The trick has been turned step by step. You may find it necessary to snap out of your mental inertia through a similar procedure, moving slowly at first, then increasing your speed until you gain complete control over your will. Be persistent no matter how slowly you may at first have to move. With persistence will come success. If you select your mastermind group with care, you will have it in at least one person who will aid you in the development of persistence. If you select your mastermind group with care, you will have in it at least one person who will aid you in the development of persistence. Some people who have accumulated great fortunes did so because of necessity. They developed the habit of persistence because they were so closely driven by circumstances, they had to become persistent. There is no substitute for persistence. It cannot be supplanted by any other quality. Remember this in the beginning, and it will hearten you when the going may seem difficult and slow. Those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. No matter how many times they are defeated, they finally arrive up near the top of the ladder. Sometimes it appears there is a hidden guide whose duty is to test the people through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on trying arrive, and the world cries, "Bravo! I knew you could do it." The hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing the persistence test. Those who can't take it simply do not make the grade. Those who can take it are bountifully rewarded for their persistence. They receive as their compensation whatever goal they are pursuing. That is not all. I'm going to reread that one. Those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. No matter how many times they are defeated, they finally arrive up near the top of the ladder. Sometimes it appears there is a hidden guide whose duty is to test people through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Sometimes it appears through a hidden guide, whose duty is to test people through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on trying arrive, and the world cries, "Bravo! I knew you could do it." The hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing the persistence test. Those who can't take it simply do not make the grade. Those who can take it are bountifully rewarded for their persistence. They receive as their compensation whatever goal they are pursuing. That is not all. They receive something infinitely more important than material compensation, the knowledge that every failure begins with it, the seed of an equivalent advantage. Ain't that the truth? A few people know from experience the soundness of persistence. They are the ones who have not accepted defeat as being anything more than temporary. They are the ones whose desires are so persistently applied that defeat is finally changed into victory. We who stand on the sidelines of life see the overwhelmingly large number who go down in defeat, never to rise again. We who stand on the sidelines of life see the overwhelmingly large number who go down in defeat, never to rise again. We see the few who take the punishment of defeat as an urge to greater effort. These fortunately never learn to accept life's reverse gear. But what we do not see, what most of us never suspect of existing, is the silent but irresistible power which comes to the rescue of those who might, on in the face of discouragement. But what we do not see, what most of us never suspect of existing, is the silent but irresistible power which comes to the rescue of those who fight on in the face of discouragement. If we speak of this power at all, we call it persistence and let it go at that. One thing we all know, if one does not possess persistence, one does not achieve noteworthy success in any calling. A good example of the power of persistence is show business. From all over the world, people have come to Hollywood seeking fame, fortune, power, love, or whatever it is that human beings call success. Once in a great while, someone steps out from the long procession of seekers, and the world hears that another person has mastered Hollywood. But Hollywood is not easily or quickly conquered. It acknowledges talent, recognizes genius, and pays off in money only after one has refused to quit. The secret, wow, I need to read that one to a friend of mine who's Cześć Rafcio Papcio. Gotta read that to a friend of mine, because he's an actor. The secret is always inseparably attached to one word: persistence. Bruce Lee, the actor who made us conscious of the Asian martial arts, might have been forgotten long ago were it not for his persistence in reaching for movie stardom. Lee arrived in America from China with nothing but a dream and the capacity for hard work. During his youth, he studied and mastered Kung Fu and later became a teacher of this art. However, his real goal was to be an actor. He obtained minor roles in some films and TV programs, but he felt his great break came when he learned that the producers of a new television series called Kung Fu were looking for an actor who knew the martial arts for the starring role. His screen test was successful, and he looked forward to being given the role, but to his great disappointment, another actor, David Carradine, was chosen. Disillusioned, he was ready to give up acting and go back to teaching. When members of the Asian community heard of this, he was deluged with letters asking him not to give up. Soon, the word spread to movie fans of all races, and Lee made up his mind to keep seeking new roles. He never gave up. He took roles in several films, and his reputation as an actor and proponent of the martial arts made him a household name throughout the world. He took the study of the martial arts from being limited to Asian countries to becoming universally respected. Although he died of a cerebral hemorrhage at the age of 32, his fame has lived after him. Bruce Lee is not only still remembered and admired by fans, many of whom were not even born when he made his movies, but TV series and early films have been made into videos and are still highly popular all over the world. Although he died of a cerebral hemorrhage at the age of 32, his fame has lived after him. Bruce Lee is not only still remembered and admired by fans, many of whom were not even born when he made his movies, but TV series and early films have been made into videos and are still highly popular all over the world. Got it. Persistence is a state of mind, so it can be cultivated. Like all states of mind, persistence is based upon definite causes, including 1. Definiteness of purpose. Knowing what you want is the first and perhaps the most important step, step toward the development of persistence. A strong motive forces you to surmount many difficulties. 2. Desire. It is comparatively easy to acquire and maintain persistence in pursuing the object of intense desire. 3. Self-reliance. Belief in your ability to carry out a plan encourages you to follow the plan through with persistence. Self-reliance can be developed through the principle described in Chapter 4, autosuggestion. Pardon me. 4. Definiteness of plans. Organized plans, even though they may be weak, entirely impractical, organized plans, even though they may be weak and entirely impractical, encourage persistence. That's true. Thanks. 5. Accurate knowledge. Knowing that your plans are sound based upon experience or observation encourages persistence. Guessing instead of knowing destroys persistence. 6. Cooperation. Sympathy, understanding, and harmonious cooperation with others tend to develop persistence. 7. Willpower. The habit of concentrating your thoughts upon the building of plans for the attainment of a definite purpose leads to persistence. 8. Habit. Persistence is the direct result of habit. The mind absorbs and becomes part of the daily experiences upon which it feeds. Fear, the worst of all enemies, can be effectively cured by forced repetition of acts of courage. That's true. Everyone who has seen active service in war knows this. Before leaving the subject of persistence, take an inventory of yourself. Determine in what particular, if any, you are lacking in this essential quality. Measure yourself courageously, point by point, and see how many of the 8 factors of persistence you lack. The analysis may lead to discoveries that will give you a new grip on yourself. Symptoms of lack of persistence. Here you will find the real enemies that stand between you and noteworthy achievement. Here you will find not only the symptoms indicating weakness of persistence, but also the deeply seated subconscious causes of this weakness. Study the list carefully and face yourself squarely if you really wish to know who you are and what you are capable of doing. These are the weaknesses that must be mastered by all who accumulate riches. 1. Failure to recognize and clearly define exactly what you want. 2. Procrastination with or without cause, usually backed up with a formidable array of alibis and excuses. 3. Lack of interest in acquiring specialized knowledge. 4. Indecision, the habit of passing the buck on all occasions instead of facing issues squarely, also backed by alibis. 5. The habit of relying upon alibis instead of creating definite plans for the solution of problems. 6. Self-satisfaction. There is but little remedy for this affliction and no hope for this. Self-action. There is but little remedy for this affliction and no hope for those who suffer from it. 7. indifference, usually reflected in your readiness to compromise on all occasions rather than meet opposition and fight it. 8. The habit of blaming others for your mistakes and accepting favorable circumstances as being unavoidable. 9. Weakness of desire due to neglect in the choice of motives that impel action. 10. Willingness, even eagerness, to quit at the first sign of defeat, based upon one or more of the 6 basic fears. 11. Lack of organized plans, placed in writing where they may be analyzed. 12. The habit of neglecting to move on ideas or to grasp opportunity when it presents itself. 13. Wishing instead of willing. 14. The habit of compromising with poverty instead of aiming at riches. That's a true one. A general absence of ambition to be, to do, and to own. 15. Searching for all the shortcuts to riches, trying to get without giving a fair. 15. Searching for all the shortcuts to riches, trying to get without giving a fair equivalent, usually reflected in the habit of gambling or endeavoring to drive sharp bargains. 16. Fear of criticism. Failure to create plans and to put them into action because of what other people will think, do, or say. This enemy belongs at the head of the list because it generally exists in the subconscious mind without being recognized. My mother-in-law. That's what came up right there. See the 6 basic fears in chapter 15. Let us examine some of the symptoms of the fear of criticism. The majority of people permit relatives, friends, and public at large to so influence them they cannot live their own lives because they fear criticism. You ever have a person that's like, I just don't like telling them anything because they always just say, no, don't do that. Do something easier. It'll be easier and more, to them, I guess, easier is more fun, not to us. My partner. So you ever have people that do that? It is very underrated. Huge numbers of people make mistakes in marriage. Let us examine some of the symptoms of the fear of criticism. The majority of people permit relatives, friends, and the public at large to so influence them that they cannot live their own lives because they fear criticism. Huge numbers of people make mistakes in marriage, stand by the bargain, and go through miserable and unhappy because they fear criticism that may follow if they correct the mistake. Anyone who has submitted to this form of fear knows the irreparable damage it does by destroying ambition, self-reliance, and the desire to achieve. Millions of people neglect to acquire belated educations after having left school because they fear criticism. Countless numbers of men and women, both young and old, permit relatives to wreck their lives in the name of duty because they fear criticism. Duty does not require any person to submit to the destruction of their personal ambitions and the right to live their life in their own way. People refuse to take chances in business because they fear the criticism that may follow if they fail. Fear of criticism, in such cases, is stronger than the desire for success. Too many people refuse to set high goals for themselves or even neglect selecting a career because they fear the criticism of relatives and friends who may say, don't aim so high, people will think you are crazy. When Andrew Carnegie suggested that I devote 20 years to the organization of a philosophy of individual achievement, my first impulse of thought was fear of what people might say. The suggestion set up a goal for me, far out of proportion to any I had ever conceived. As quick as a flash, my mind began to create alibis and excuses, all of them traceable to the inherent fear of criticism. Something inside me said, you can't do it. The job is too big and requires too much time. What will your relatives think of you? How will you earn a living? No one has ever organized a philosophy of success, so what right have you to believe you can do it? Who are you anyway to aim so high? Remember your humble birth. What do you know about philosophy? People will think you are crazy, and they did. Why hasn't some other person done this before now? These and many other questions flashed into my mind and demanded attention. It seemed as if the whole world had suddenly turned its attention to me with the purpose of ridiculing me into giving up all desire to carry out Mr. Carnegie's suggestion. I had a fine opportunity then and there to kill off ambition before it gained control of me. Later in life, after having analyzed thousands of people, I discovered that most ideas are stillborn and need the breath of life injected into them through the definite plans of immediate action. That's what it is right there. The time to nurse an idea is at the time of its birth. Every minute it lives gives it a better chance of surviving. The fear of criticism is at the bottom of the destruction of most ideas that never reach the planning and action stage. Another good example of a person who refused to accept the criticism of others and persisted in pursuing his dream is Fred Smith, whose success in creating and developing Federal Express was described in the previous chapter. Many people believe that material success is the result of favorable breaks. There is an element of ground for the belief, but those depending entirely on luck are nearly always disappointed because they overlook another important factor that must be present before one can be sure of success. It is the knowledge with which favorable breaks can be made to order. Let's look at Tom Monaghan. Let's look at Tom Monaghan, who created and grew Domino's Pizza from a one-store pizza parlor to a chain of several thousand home delivery outlets over a period of about 30 years. In 1989, he decided to sell his hugely successful company to concentrate instead on doing philanthropic work. But his plan did not work out. After 2.5 years, the company had purchased the chain, almost drove it into bankruptcy, so Monaghan came back. It took much hard work and persistence to first rebuild and then expand the organization. Monaghan had developed the necessary determination early in his life. He had overcome a childhood of deprivation, poverty, and abuse to become a great entrepreneur. Now, once again, he mobilized all his efforts not only to return Domino to its original prominence, but to expand it to 6,000 stores, of which 1,100 are in countries other than the United States. Once the chain was back on its feet, Monaghan faced a new and serious challenge. Domino built its major promotion on its guarantee of fast delivery. It guaranteed customers would get their pizza within 30 minutes. This led to a series of lawsuits from people who claimed injury from accidents caused by Domino delivery drivers who were speeding to make the 30-minute deadline. The family of a woman allegedly killed by a Domino driver was awarded $3 million. The final blow came when another woman was awarded $78 million. After that, Domino dropped the 30-minute guarantee. Despite this financial catastrophe, Monaghan refused to give up. He plowed more money, time, and energy into the company and brought it back once again. By his persistence and positive attitude, he forged ahead and inspired his team with the winning spirit that has made Domino #1 in its industry. Examine the next 100 people you meet, ask them what they want most in life, and 98 of them will not be able to tell you. If you press them for an answer, some will say security, many will say money, a few will say happiness, others will say fame and power, and still others will say social recognition, ease in living, ability to sing, dance, or write. But none of them will be able to define these terms or give the slightest indication of a plan by which they hope to attain these vaguely expressed wishes. I can. Riches do not respond to wishes. They respond only to definite plans. backed by definite desires through constant persistence. Hey, Dapcho Papcho, you're asking me, can I talk about space? Space as related to this book and the philosophies it teaches, or what specifically? How to develop persistence. There are 4 simple steps that lead to the habit of persistence. They call for no great amount of intelligence, no particular level of education, and but little time or effort. The necessary steps are: 1. A definite purpose backed by a burning desire for its fulfillment. 2. A definite plan expressed in continuous action. 3. A mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences, including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and acquaintances. 4. A friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage you to follow through with both plan and purpose. He did those in bold. So important. These 4 steps are essential for success in all walks of life. The entire purpose of the 13 principles of this philosophy is to enable you to take these 4 steps as a matter of habit. They are the steps by which you may control your economic destiny. They are the steps that lead to freedom and independence of thought. They are the steps that lead to riches in small or great quantities. They are the steps that lead the way to power, fame, and worldly recognition. They are the steps that guarantee favorable breaks. They are the steps that convert dreams into physical realities. They are the steps that lead also to the mastery of fear, discouragement, and indifference. There is a magnificent reward for all who learn to take these 4 steps. It is the privilege of writing your own ticket and of making life yield whatever price is asked. What mystical power gives to people of persistence the capacity to master difficulties? Does the quality of persistence set up in your mind some form of spiritual, mental, or chemical activity that gives you access to supernatural forces? Does infinite intelligence throw itself on the side of the person who still fights on after the battle has been lost, with the whole world on the opposing side? These and many other similar questions have arisen in my mind as I have observed men like Henry Ford, who started from scratch and built an industrial empire of huge proportions, with little else in the way of a beginning but persistence. Or Thomas A. Edison, who with less than 3 months of schooling became the world's leading inventor and converted persistence into the talking machine, the moving picture machine, and the incandescent light, to say nothing of 100 other useful inventions. I had the happy privilege of analyzing both Mr. Edison and Mr. Ford year by year over a long period and the opportunity to study them at close range. I therefore speak from actual knowledge when I say that I found no quality save persistence in either of them that even remotely suggested the major source of their stupendous achievements. As one makes an impartial study of successful people, one is drawn to the inevitable conclusion that persistence, concentration of effort, and definiteness of purpose are the major sources of their achievements. A good example of determination and persistence is Howard Schultz, the Starbucks man. It takes a person with vision, fortitude, and unswerving confidence to make a new concept succeed. Schultz was hired to manage retail sales and marketing for a small coffee distributor who had a few retail outlets in Seattle. He was 29 and just married. He and his wife left their home in New York City to accept this new job. About a year later, Schultz visited Italy on a buying trip. As he wandered around Milan, he noticed how important coffee was to the Italian culture. Typically, the workday starts with a cup of rich coffee at a coffee bar. After work, friends and colleagues once again meet at the coffee bar for a leisurely stop before heading home. It is a center of Italian social life. Schultz visualized this transferred to America. It had never been done, but he felt it could work because of the high quality of Starbucks coffee. It became Schultz's obsession. He was determined to build a national chain of cafes based on the Italian coffee bar, but the Starbucks owners were reluctant. They were in the wholesale coffee bean business. Yeah, I just had another great idea. Because Starbucks has kind of left that situation. Well, not so much. The Italian way is they go to work, but a lot of people work remote now, and a lot of people just want coffee to go upon their day. What we need to do is come up with, and I've seen it here in Poland, like a co-working space that you can donate to work at, and you get a couple espressos each day minimum. And genuinely, just from the donations, you can thrive. This current plan I'm working with, Gold and Silver. This is pretty cool. This book is insane. Like, just by reading this book, I hope it's evolving your thoughts as well. That's truly my intention. And then that you act on them. It had never been done, but he felt it could work because of the high quality of Starbucks coffee. It became Schultz's obsession. He was determined to build a national chain of cafes based on the Italian coffee bar, but the Starbucks owners were reluctant. They were in the wholesale coffee bean business. The restaurants they owned were only a small part of their operation. To implement his goal, Schultz left Starbucks and planned a new company. In 1986, Schultz opened his first coffee bar in Seattle. It was an immediate success. Schultz soon opened another in Seattle and a third in Vancouver. The following year, he bought the Starbucks company and adopted its name for his enterprise. Schultz believes that the quality of Starbucks will one day Schultz believes that the quality of Starbucks will one day alter how everyday Americans conduct their lives. If Schultz has his way, a cup of Starbucks will become a basic part of American culture. His concept has paid off. Starbucks' sales have increased ninefold for every year since 1988. Not sure if that's continued in the last 5 to 10 years, but maybe. Stop on their way to work. Schultz envisioned hundreds of Starbucks coffee shops across America where business people would stop on their way to work and come to after work to relax. Shoppers would stop for a pick-me-up. Young people would meet their dates over coffee rather than cocktails. Families would come for refreshment before or after the cinema. Starbucks incurred losses for 3 straight years, more than $1 million in 1989 alone. But Schultz never gave up. He had a firm conviction that it was the way to build a company and that the losses would soon turn into profits. Once his Seattle stores were profitable, Starbucks spread slowly into other cities: Vancouver, Portland, Los Angeles, Denver, and Chicago, and later to the eastern cities and overseas. Starbucks has become a household name all over the world and an exemplar of American marketing ingenuity, and it has made Howard Schultz one of the world's richest people. That's actually a really good story. Also, space book that comes to mind, I could read Elon Musk's biography. I know I have that somewhere, but you have to let me know if that's something you're interested in. It'd have to be in the next few books. We've only got a few more chapters to finish this, don't we? Let's see. Chapter 16, is that the last one, is my question. It is, and chapter 10. So we're going to finish this week. We're going to finish this book this week. I'm excited. Chapter 10, The Power of the Mastermind, which is the driving force. That's the next chapter. This has been Think and Grow Rich, Chapter 9, Persistence, a book by Napoleon Hill, endorsed by Andrew Carnegie and taken by Will to become magical. Listen, I always ask questions here. That's the main point of this, but several main points. I always have several main points. It's for you to evolve your thought processes. So I hope you have taken what you've gotten in this book today and you act on this. And by main reason, read every day, or at least listen. And I actually have a program where I'm helping people to go from, boring lives to happier lives. If that's something you're interested in, definitely subscribe and comment on one of my messages. We'll start a dialogue. But ultimately, it involves you finding your purpose in your career, if that is something you're looking for, or if you're already set with that, making sure your health is intact. And then, of course, you creating a greater purpose in life so you can help more people, kind of like this guy Napoleon did years ago when he started writing this book. I hope you have a great day. I appreciate you. Hope you have the best one ever. Definitely like and subscribe to stay with the book club. Oh, and if you just want to join the book club, comment, and I'll throw you in the secret group.